Alright, hey everyone, it's Anthony TDG, or Anthony the Dubstep Gamer. So, with Zhongli's rear run being out for quite a while, and I have built him quite a bit, it's time for me to make a guide about him. So I'm gonna go over his best artifacts, weapons, and teams so you can optimally build him. So let's get started. To go over Zhongli's role in your teams, he provides quite a bit of defensive utility in your teams in the form of an elemental skill that is the tankiest shield in the game. This shield makes teams a lot more comfortable to play, especially if you have an on-field character that needs to do a lot of attacks without getting interrupted. This is kind of helped by the fact that his first Ascension passive allows you to get more shield strength if the shield takes damage up to 5 times, so about 25% shield strength. Not the greatest since most of the time you'll probably have your shield taken down beforehand, but it's a nice little addition. Zhongli's Elemental Burst basically does quite a bit of damage and can freeze enemies in place for a couple seconds, so you can get some attacks in and not get hit. However, it does take quite a bit of time to cast and actually hit the enemy, so you gotta use it a little sparingly. His second Ascension passive basically allows for max HP scaling on his normal attack, skill, and Elemental Burst, but it's not that relevant, it's more like small damage increase, except for the burst it does help quite a bit, but it's meant to be used more for the meme builds like Physical Zhongli, which of course I got to cover because now I have a C6 Mika and I'm a Eula player, so of course I'm going to take a little bit of an interest in Physical Zhongli as he's a little bit more viable nowadays. Since there are quite a bit of builds you could do with Zhongli, I'm going to go over 4 of them in this video, one of them being Burst Zhongli, where he prioritizes Elemental Burst for the damage, a Shield Bot Zhongli, where he prioritizes Elemental Skill for the shield absorption and build him full HP, a Physical Zhongli, where he prioritizes normal attacks and build him physical damage, and a hybrid build, which is the most recommended one that I'm going to go for, which is a mix between Shield and Burst. You prioritize some HP for shield absorption, but you build him with attack and geo damage so that you can get some damage off his Elemental Burst as well. Now with all these builds come different talent priorities, so let's get started with the build starting with talents. For the talent priority, you want to prioritize his elemental skill the most, as it is the most useful part of his kit, providing defensive utility for your teams, and is pretty good for 2 of the builds with his Shield Bot Zhongli and Hybrid Zhongli. Elemental Burst is also pretty good because it can freeze enemies for longer and do more damage the more talent levels you have on it, but it's mainly used if you want to use the Burst Bot Zhongli, and don't touch the normal attacks at all unless you want to do other meme builds like Physical Zhongli. Now we're on to Zhongli's best weapons. Starting things off with his signature weapon, Vortex Vanquisher gives an attack percent substat with a lower base attack and increases shield strength of all party members by 20%. Every time you hit enemies, you can increase attack percent by 4% for 8 seconds with 5 stacks. While protected by a shield, this increases the attack percent by 100% and all damage increased by 50% of the wielder's shield strength. Now this may seem like a really great weapon, but it's still not his best weapon despite being his signature. That would go to the next weapon, Staff of Homa. The reason being is because the Staff of Homa has a crit damage substat, gives HP, provides an attack bonus based on max HP, and gives more attack bonus based on HP if you're lower than 50% health. But of course it comes to no surprise that the generalist's best weapon for his builds are going to be Favonius Lance, as it provides energy recharge to him and provides energy recharge to the team in the form of white particles. Now if you don't have any 5-star or 4-star options, you can always go for the Black Tassel, as it does provide a lot of HP, which is good for Zhongli's shield and stuff. Obviously the passive is pretty useless, but I mean, if you don't have any good options, you can always go for that. Now there is the Fontaine craftable weapon, which is the rightful reward, but it's not as great as Black Tassel or Favonius Lance. The main reason being, you're not going to play Zhongli with a healer most of the time, so the energy thing is pretty useless. Not to mention it does have lower HP than Black Tassel. Now for Zhongli's alternate builds, his weapon recommendation stays about the same, but for physical damage Zhongli, you want to use Skyward Spine, which I have right now, or you could use Crescent Pike or Dragon Spine Spear, with me recommending Crescent Pike a lot more as the passive is actually useful. Now that we got his weapons covered, let's move on to his best artifact sets. Starting things off with his general best artifact set, that's going to be 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith. The reason why is because it gives an HP bonus on the 2-piece, attack percent bonus, and shield strength bonus on the 4-piece. This set is great for buffing characters in your team. However, it's going to be a little bit difficult to pull off, as enemies have to be hit by Zhongli's pillar, and this can be easily destroyed by bosses or aggressive enemies, so you have to place it a little further away from them. Now for Zhongli's other builds, 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Archaic Bactra are going to be his best artifact set combinations for the burst build. The reason being is because 2-piece Archaic Petra gives a geo damage bonus, while 2-piece Noblesse gives a burst damage bonus. You don't really want to run a 4-piece of either of these artifact sets as it's not really that useful. Noblesse is alright, but definitely not Archaic Petra. Now, if you want to do Shield Bot Zhongli, you want to go 2-piece with Tenacity of the Millilith and Voracash's Glow, as they both provide a combined total of 40% HP, which will make your shield a lot tankier for your teams. Now, for physical damage Zhongli, the best artifact sets are going to be Pale Flame and Bloodstained Chivalry as the 2-piece, because the 4-piece of these sets are not really that viable, but stacking a lot of physical damage bonus is going to add up, especially if you add the weapons and Mika. Now we move on to Zhongli's best artifact stats. For Zhongli's best artifact stats, it's going to vary depending on the build, but for the generalist build, his best build is going to be an HP Sands, as it makes his shield tanky and make him do a little bit more damage off the HP. A crit rate circlet or a crit damage circlet, depending on what you need to balance your ratio. I always recommend crit rate more for Favonius. And a geo damage goblet so that he could do more geo damage, especially from his burst. Now for Zhongli's burst bot build, you want to go for an attack Sands instead of an HP Sands so you can get more damage around your kit, and maybe more of a crit damage circlet so that you can get higher crits, with the geo damage bonus goblet remaining the same. Now for a physical damage Zhongli, you're going to want to put a physical damage bonus goblet on him, as your damage is going to come from your normal attacks. You want to put an attack Sands on him, as it's going to provide quite a bit of damage to your normal attacks, but you can always look out for HP substats so that you can get more HP scaling on your normal attacks. Last but not least, for shield bot Zhongli, you want to put HP on every piece, as that's the main stat that's going to help make your shield a lot tankier. And that brings us to the final part of the guide, which is Zhongli's best teams. Zhongli has a lot of options when it comes to his best teams. It doesn't matter the build except for physical. His first team is going to be a mono geo team that consists of Ito, Goru, a flex option, and Zhongli. Zhongli is the defensive utility of the team with the shield and provides good uptime of geo resonance, while the other characters are supporting the main geo DPS. Another team that you can play Zhongli in is a Yoimiya Vape team, where Yoimiya is the on-field auto attacker, Yelan is the off-field sub DPS, Yunjin buffs Yoimiya's auto attacks, and Zhongli is the defensive utility in the team while also shredding resistance. The last team example I have for almost every Zhongli build is going to be a Tighnari spread team, where Tighnari is the quick swap DPS, Yaimiko is the off-field DPS, and Nahida does provide team buffs to both of them, while Zhongli is the shielder in the team. And last but not least is the physical damage team, where Zhongli takes the role of the on-field DPS, with an electro support like Raiden or Fischl, a cryo support like Mika, Rosaria, or Diona, and a flex option which could be reserved for Yunjin, Bennett, or any other character. But that's going to conclude the Zhongli guide. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe, as I very much so appreciate it. Please feel free to check out my merch shop and other relevant things in the description below. But as always, have a good day and enjoy the showcase.